The Putin regime has been widely exploiting the vulnerabilities of global social media platforms using bots and trolls to promote specific stories and narratives. But they're not alone. Once developed, the same techniques can be used by other powers, international and local, to subvert democratic institutions and warp the public perception of the news and politics in their countries. Welcome to Silicon Curtain. Please like and subscribe and comment. The algorithm has changed recently, and comments are very important now. And that will help other people find our fantastic speakers. And of course, if you do enjoy the content we create, do consider supporting us by becoming a patron or buy me a coffee. Anton Tarasyuk is co-founder and expertise lead at Mantis Analytics. Mantis is an AI-driven real-time information field monitoring platform. It collects information from media, social networks, and other sources, analyzes it, and provides insights into who communicates and what. And why this is important on the channel: this is a critical technology for helping to battle disinformation and propaganda. Anton, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to have me here. Thanks a lot.
Well, I'm really interested in this. As people on the channel will know, I have a background in digital marketing and specialize in, or at least have a great interest in, technological solutions to a variety of problems, including disinformation and propaganda. So we'll start with your personal biography in a minute, but let's have a quick dive into Mantis Analytics. What exactly does it do, and how does it do it?
Okay, so basically, Mantis Analytics is an AI-driven platform that conducts information space listening and analysis in real time to provide reliable and actionable data for risk management, both physical and informational. So how it looks like in the flow. So we collect data, like we grab data from different sources, legacy media, social media networks. Basically, we are pretty data agnostic, but our first focus was social media and especially Telegram channels. After that, we process data. We select two streams of events, physical and mental. Physical being events that are happening in so-called real world, like we can see on the streets, for example. Mental is something which is related to what's happening in people's heads, like attitudes, sentiments, and so on. And then we apply our NLP and LLM stack to it to select information campaigns, to conduct geomapping, to flag potential cases of disinformation, to spot propaganda techniques, and to conduct sentiment analysis. And after that, we present it via user interfaces. Mainly, these are two kinds of interfaces: dashboards and maps. But sometimes people need reports and so on. So this is basically the stuff we also do. This is like how the technology works in a nutshell, and how it was born. It was born out of a sheer necessity, so to say, like in February 2022, when Russia unleashed its full-scale aggression against Ukraine. So basically, a group of NLP and LLM guys, like AI minds. Ukraine is very potent with AI talent. We're just discussing how can they help their country, how can they contribute to the resistance. And the idea popped up, okay, let's do something with the information space, because Russia was pushing lots of campaigns, hostile campaigns, like disinformation campaigns. We can dive into it in a few minutes if you want, but just to explain the origin story. And people were not prepared to it, and institutions were not prepared to it. Our first client was National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, and when we got there, like, there were just people sitting, going through manually going through articles and content that was being pushed by probably by Russians or Russian agents or useful idiots of Russia. And we should know that these are like first weeks and months of the invasion. People are not prepared. People are not ready for such kind of huge information pushing. So like people are reading like Zelenskyy is not in the capital. He has fled. like don't go to the streets, you will be killed by armed forces of Ukraine, and so on and so on and so on. So this is how it how all this stuff attacks an unprepared mind. And our first step was we can automate the detection of such flows for people, for researchers, for strategists of national security and defense council to work on the real stuff that needs their creative abilities, like being able to push counter campaigns, being able to go brief stakeholders, being able to publish the debunking piece, and so on and so on. So yeah, this is how it all started, and for a year it was a sheer volunteer initiative. We operated in a volunteering mode, and after the year we thought, okay, we have the product, we have the clients, we have the team, so probably there is a startup, and that's how we started the transformation into the company. But we do not close the volunteering stream. We help. Part of our efforts goes to helping the Ukrainian institutions to be efficient in information resilience building, because this is the crucial task that is on the agenda, and it is still on the agenda.
That's extraordinary that so many people would give what I assume is very sophisticated expertise to, on a volunteer basis to build such a solution. But is there a common understanding that this is quite literally a matter of life and death, that the information war is as important as the physical struggle that's taking place?
Yeah, this is the thing that fueled the volunteer, not only in our case, but like in general in Ukraine, like volunteer efforts. So we have this ML engineer, like a very cool guy, very sophisticated, like a bright engineering mind, one of the best in Eastern Europe. And he said, okay, I'm sitting and I'm like generating AI t-shirts for an American celebrity, because every cool AI engineer in Ukraine works for some global company. And he says, okay, I'm generating these AI t-shirts. Well, my city is being bombed. I should probably do something more impactful, at least at my free time. And this is how we gathered the team, which to be honest, we wouldn't be able to gather in the normal times. We are like very honest with ourselves here. But this is how the initial team was brought up. And yeah, this is the matter of life and death sometimes. Like we can remember this. This is like a great example of a disinformation campaign which could actually take lives. For example, at the first days of invasion, there was this campaign pushed probably by Russian agents or Russians themselves about graffiti marks being put on the streets to navigate the artillery strikes. Yeah. So this is like a sheer nonsense. Like this is the stupid one. How can a rocket find some graffiti mark on the road? Yeah, like the classical graffiti mark, for example, a circle with a cross. But people believed in it because this is the first time people are having this war experience. Nobody was prepared for it. I saw people who were looking for people who are spotting these graffiti marks. Yeah, and you could get into trouble if somebody thought that you are doing this, because they will think that you're a Russian agent. They will probably want to at least capture you and detain you. Not to say to do more. And this was there was no like graffiti marks. This is just a lie. This is the classical disinformation campaign, like a false one and the harmful one, and it could take lives. Yeah, so this is how we this is the environment we woke up in on 2000 on February 2022, right? This is what we saw.
And we see at this point now, I don't use words like sort of stalemate and stuff because that's far too simplistic to describe what's going on. What's going on is very complex and at an extraordinary scale, but the front lines are not changing huge amount. In this period of the war, where Russia has despite the narratives they put out about them being strong and the propagandists are so confident at the moment, there are clearly a lot of problems on the Russian side. In this period, is it much more likely that they will turn to or are turning to disinformation techniques? And what signs do you see that within your tool, both externally, but also internally? Because it seems to me that there is an uptick in narratives around things like, fights within the government, Washington wanting to dismiss Zelenskyy, corruption as well. There's evidence now the BBC have put forward of the huge campaign against Reznikov and his team. Now, of course, there was some corruption there, and propaganda doesn't just invent stuff usually from nothing. It utilizes stuff from the real world. But what is the evidence you're seeing of an uptick or intensification in both external and internal disinformation?
Mhm. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's start with the quote. Like the head of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Alexei Danilov, has put recently a very good phrase that I think is worth of attention. Like the information war has no front lines, so there is no like a border, like a clear border, which says, okay, here is the direct conflict going on, and what is behind is like something which is uh, calm, more calm and more like normal. There is no such borders. So yeah, and when there is no clear when there is no clear like uh, I wouldn't say progress, but I would like say significant changes on the front line. The significance of information warfare increases because it all gets about like morale, like public morale, soldiers' morale, and so on. And I would say that one major thing that is pretty evident right now, the Russians are getting smarter and more nuanced. Ukraine is a very discussion-loving society, so people are discussing all this stuff. Sometimes these discussions get grim, and there are like pain points that people discuss. Yeah, let's not pretend that there are no pain points. The corruption, the question of corruption. Yeah, people are discussing stuff, and this is the pain point, or the recruitment stuff, right? This is something that people have different opinions on in Ukraine. And this is the pain point where it is a natural way to hit if you are a Russian PSYOP officer or propagandist or like disinformation strategist, right? Because these are things that are that have a real foundation. Foundation behind them. People are discussing them, people have different opinions, and now you can divide them more. And there are some local stuff, right? For example, lots of people became temporarily displaced persons and they moved into other regions. And naturally, there are no like big conflicts between people. But when foreign people like or not people from your area come to you, you may get a bit suspicious. And now this is a good way for your enemy to put some heat into the into the information space of your community, right? For example, saying that I don't know, like they will get like these people will get all the places at schools or at universities, right? We saw this kind of thing, like people coming from other regions because these regions are or were occupied into more safe areas. And now there is a campaign that says these people will take all the places in universities. And okay, now you have a tension, right? And this tension is not something like clearly made up. It is directed to real concern in the community, in the society, but it can be fueled. And this is the main, like the main, this is the main thing that is gets very tricky because there are discussions in society that are to be preserved because we're a democracy, right? but these discussions and these pain points can be weaponized to polarize people and to direct them not in the way of a constructive agreement or some kind of, like, so to say, finding a zone of possible agreement, but in finding a way to like separate themselves and fight internally. Yeah, and this is how it works right now. There are no campaigns like these graffiti marks. Nobody says that some Russian agents are putting some graffiti marks on the streets to navigate the rockets. No. Now it is all about social issues, military issues, international relations issues. Sometimes, for example, like saying that the support is gone for Ukraine is gone, and so on and so on. Yeah, so now it is more tricky, and it is tricky because there is no direct line, like as Danilov says, no front line between what is the societal discussion, like a normal democracy stuff, and hostile information campaigning from your adversary. So this is a tricky one.
So here comes your tool. Your tool comes into this information warfare space.
Yeah.
Who are the natural customers for your tool? I mean, or more particularly, who can afford it? Who has the specialists who can utilize your tool? How do they use it in their workflows? And what benefit does it provide to your customers?
Oh, okay. Yeah, naturally, we started with a niche, like working with national security institutions and people involved in information warfare stuff. Uh, this is how it started. After that, we expanded into working with media and think tanks, mainly fact checkers. For fact checkers, our tool is a great way to save resources and time, because imagine you are monitoring information space on a daily basis, and you have, I don't know, like 1,000 content pieces to check, and out of this 1,000, there are 200 that are suspicious, and 50, for example, are a direct disinformation campaign. And so what we can do, we can automate the first order fact checking, so to say. We can provide them suspicious cases. We can provide them cases that are a potential disinformation cases. So one of our technologies marks these content pieces with one of the three verdicts, whether it is one, which means probably not a disinformation, don't bother. Two means maybe checked. Three means probably disinformation, should be checked. And these models were trained with fact checkers with their methodology. So basically the idea was to automate the methodology that fact checkers use themselves manually, just to remove their manual efforts out of the process, so they can focus on analyzing really suspicious cases, not bothering with cases that are just noise. This is one use case. Right now we're exploring two other routes. One is concerned with public security, because if something happens, for example, in the city, if a guy stabs a guy on the street, if a public service disrupts, like a bus doesn't work, or for Ukraine's case, if Shahed strikes a building, probably the first place where this news will appear will be social media. And this is the tool, and we have the technology to find this news in real time, to map them directly, to spot them geographically, and to provide rapid alerts with respect to security situation on some areas, or for example, the city stuff. If public service disrupts, somebody will probably write it on social media, and we will spot it, and it will be a way to alert in a very very fast way the authorities or people who need to react. This is the one thing. And the second, we're actively exploring corporate use cases. They are related related to brand protection stuff, and this is like the informational side of what we do. And the other one is physical, which is related to more of a physical safety, like supply chain and so on. Yeah, so this is our natural way from the governmental niche to the corporate niche. Right now we're somewhere in between, so we work mostly with media and think tanks, and starting the pilot projects with corporate sector.
So there are elements of social listening, but it's far
Yeah.
more, say, action-oriented, oriented around discovering particular narratives. A question here, which I think is quite an interesting one, is that sometimes the informational threat or the information source is organic. So if you talk about, say, a Serhiy strike, you would expect, I guess, that the geolocation of those social media posts to originate from the area where that has happened and then spread outwards. So there must be patterns of location-based behaviors, whether something is a natural or an artificial narrative that's propagating. Is your tool then able to classify whether you think this is noise or a genuine organic news source or something that has been coordinated externally?
Yeah, there are ways to do it. There are different ways to do it. Whether they are mostly related to two techniques. One is spotting the source, and the second one is analyzing the content itself. For example, we operated in this area for more than a year. We worked with Telegram closely. Right now, we understand pretty well what Telegram channels are propaganda related and what are not. And we also have a tool which automatically, with a pretty good precision, understands whether this channel is propaganda related or not, like Russian propaganda related, I mean. So this is the one way to do it. The other way is to look into content itself. It is more for narrative analysis. So maybe when there is a Shahed strike, it is not relevant. But when there is a campaign being pushed, there are textual features like some content patterns that can be spotted. For example, if we talk about propaganda, there are lots of scholarly work which detects like main propaganda techniques, and for LLM model, if it is properly trained, there is no problem to detect these techniques. And now you have a data-driven analysis to look into, for example, 1,000 content pieces that are being pushed and see that they are like over flooded with propaganda techniques, and this is probably some kind of at least an intentful manipulation. Especially with the generative AI, you can like create this 1,000 pieces, just setting the task to rewrite the initial, I don't know, like content piece or post. And yeah, basically AI is pretty useful here. So there are two ways to do it. One is source analysis, and the other one is just looking into content, and if it is oversaturated with like propaganda techniques and so on. So this probably is something of a campaign in nature.
And without AI, because of course your tool utilizes AI as well, would it be impossible to do the kind of at-scale analysis, including the complex sort of semantic analysis that you do, without AI? I mean, is this tool only possible because of the advances in AI technology?
I think it is a good question, and I think that when we speak about AI and disinformation and like this narrative analysis, we should be clear about uh, the use cases. And we believe, we in Mantis Analytics believe that when we're speaking about disinformation, it means we're speaking mostly about big information flows, like hundreds, thousands content pieces. Because if your cousin lies to you, this is not a disinformation. If somebody believes in a flat earth, this is probably not a disinformation. Like people can be stupid, people can be genuinely mistaken, and you can engage with them in a meaningful way. But if we are speaking about big information flows, like hundreds, thousands content pieces, there are naturally narratives, and there are naturally influence techniques, right? And this is where AI becomes useful, because people who are media literate, they can engage with content by themselves, judging it, and they're pretty good at it. But and this is not a good way to use AI. AI is needed when we're talking about like big data streams, and when we're talking about engaging with big data streams. For example, for national security reasons, for risk management, corporate risk management reasons, for research reasons, and so on. So this is something to keep in mind, because AI is not a tool for every case, right? And for a good democracy to flourish, we need to set some boundaries, right? And we cannot say that it is disinformation because we do not like or we do not agree with some position, right? And how can we prove that it is a disinformation or not? There are data-driven ways, at least, to spot the probability and to have some kind of mark, some kind of verdict, which is data-based, that provides at least an objective ground to discuss or to engage with some campaigning. So when we speak about the AI and whether it can be whether such kind of use cases can be engaged without AI, the answer is both yes and no. Yes, on an individual level, no on a society level or a corporate level or a government level, because 3,650,000 content pieces were flagged as disinformation on TikTok, on YouTube, and on Facebook, starting from February 2022. These are the numbers. These numbers cannot be in a meaningful way, in a rational way, engaged with by individual agents, and this will only just increase. So yeah,
It's an arms race, isn't it? Because as AI gets more sophisticated, then the amount of disinformation it could potentially produce is exponential. I'm interested as well in the narratives themselves. And this is one area which is very complex, as you say. Where does organic political debate and how it propagates differ from disinformation narratives? And sometimes there may even be some overlap in that. Are there markers within the narratives in the way people repeat certain phrases and patterns of phraseology? And are there patterns in the distribution or propagation of materials which allow you to say, well, this is either fully disinformation or organic? Or is there a middle ground as well sometimes, which is kind of complex, where it might be a mixture of both?
I guess there is the fuzzy border between a natural debate and uh, and um, and the campaigning, and this is the tricky question. I think that first of all, it should require a more broad approach, because we are a tech guys, we're a technology company, and technology and tech sector is not the only agent in the field, and not the only one to produce answers. For example, when we speak about disinformation, there are two main criteria, like being false and being harmful, in this at the same time. And what is harmful for society is the question which cannot be answered by tech company. it can be answered by the society and civil society institutions themselves, right? And here it is a bit subjective because China will say that something is harmful for them. Europe will say that something is harmful for them, and probably this harmful would not coincide, right? There are some clear cases, but some will be fuzzy and some will be like very subjective. And this is why it is a civil society question. And this is why there is a need to cooperate between technology and civil society. And there should be a debate, because as a tech sector, it can be very mm, very seductive, so to say, to automate all, to make it efficient, but it can kill a public debate right away, right? We need some free zones for such kind of discussions to take place. So there is no like simple answer to give. I think one of the ways to navigate this space is whether such kind of thing uh, can be called campaigning like in a data-driven way. So, for example, whether there are, I don't know, like very precise slogans that are used by a huge group of disseminators and used in a not in a, so to say, not in a natural way, providing some kind of patterns of non-authentic behavior. And this is the technological question: how to define this non-authentic behavior, how to spot it, and how to not to mix it with the natural behavior of people and agents. But there is another side, which is how can we define those terms? How can we define such kind of things as harmful, as truthful? And I'm saying it not to like relativize it. There is truth and there is harm. But when we're speaking about AI, it is about formal definitions, because this is a machine. At the end of the day, this is the machine which operates with definitions. And as much as we are clear with this definition, as efficient it is. So yeah, again, it is a good question. I think it is not solved like on a global scale, not only in Ukraine. It is just a debate for some for future years, and US elections will be a huge testing ground for such kind of concepts and approaches. I think the natural way is to combine efforts of tech sector and civil society, because technology the technology is not the only agent to play at this playground.
And this is an interesting question, isn't it? Because your clients won't be interested in all narratives. They'll be interested in specific areas, particular parts of the information ecosystem. And if they're brands, they'll be interested in things associated with their brands and their categories. So that perhaps makes it a little more focused, a little more easier to build out a set of narratives to monitor, because again, a tool like yours can't monitor everything all of the time. It's too much data. And in some of your screenshots, there's some really fascinating bits here. So one of the charts you've got here in the info field analysis is tracking, say, Nazism and Russophobia promotion.
Yeah.
You've got Ukraine-West relationships. You've got
Yeah.
war-related damages, Donbass, anti-war sentiments, discrediting Ukrainian elite. So there's all these sort of narratives, which, as you say, some of it could be organic. Well, the Nazism, not so much, and some are pure propaganda. These narratives, I'm assuming they don't come from the AI. You have to actually identify these narratives, and then you have to sort of build up a model of all the associated, excuse me, sort of terms and references and ways of doing that. So how do you do that within the tool? Do you have to have analysts who are monitoring, the news and inputting these narratives, or does the tool also help to sort of when it finds spikes in information activity? Does it also suggest, narratives? So what's the interaction there, and what are the challenges of programming in the different narratives?
Yeah, that's a good one. There are two ways basically, and you described them. One way is to set them by yourself. Another one is to ask AI to do it. And these are like two different use cases because sometimes you have, so to say, a map of a territory, which is your map, and you have to navigate it. And these campaigns you listed, these are the campaigns that we help the national security guys to monitor. There are 70 campaigns of this sort, like, for example, Crimea, negotiation process, and so on. And this is the map which was predefined. But there are use cases when you do not have a navigation for some territory. Yes, it is uncharted yet. So here AI can help to build this map, like to draw this map. One use case is we worked with a great Taiwanese think tank called Doublethink Lab. Like, guys are very good in analysis of Chinese influence campaigning and so on. And we looked into what Russians are saying about Taiwan and Taiwan's question. And we did not know anything about Russians' spin on Taiwan, right? And this is not a topic which is very explored. Yeah, and here AI is a good way to draw this map of this uncharted territory, because you collect data, you ask AI to look into the narratives and to spot them, then it spots them. After that, there are ways to prioritize them, for example, via the reach or some other metrics. There could be different metrics. Some of them are like more marketing oriented or natural for marketing, like reach, for example. Some of them could be more of an information warfare, so you can look into the level of the propaganda, level of propaganda techniques used and number of propaganda techniques for like a data stream and so on. And yeah, this is the way to utilize AI to understand the picture. And after you have this picture, you can, for example, monitor these streams for a more time, for a long time. So yeah, it depends on the use case, and it depends on the goal. If the goal is to look into something which is already known, it is one goal. If the goal is to look into something which is not known and to understand this uncharted territory, this is another goal. And here AI is very helpful because it basically conducts the work of an OSINT analyst, but more rapidly, and sometimes I would say more efficiently, and even more bias independent. So basically, AI can put these biases that we people have in brackets and ignore them.
That's fascinating. And of course, this does relate to one of the challenges here. So I was going to say, is the tool language agnostic, or does it require a significant amount of work to, train it on other languages? Because one of the real challenges in disinfo is we sort of know what's happening if you monitor Russian propaganda channels. If we monitor English language media sources, they're very extensive, etc. But the global south is important. The African continent is important. There are whole areas of the world where, and the Middle East especially, is understudied when it comes to disinformation narratives. And you'll have your own local players. You'll have regional players. You'll then have global players like Russia and China. So how does it tackle this sort of complex and perhaps underrepresented non-English disinformation sphere?
Naturally, we started with Russian and Ukrainian language. One of the reasons was like legacy tools, legacy approaches are not very good for the specifics of the region. There are different problems. One of them is, for example, mix of Russian and Ukrainian. called Surgic, which is basically a nightmare for many large language models. English is the language we naturally work with and expanded to. Basically, in principle, we can work with any language. The hard part is models are to be trained. If Russian, Ukrainian, and English is something we already cover, other languages are for us the thing we are to invest and to train the models and to make them more precise and so on. And with this respect, like the Global South is an interesting area because it is an area which is a bit similar to Ukraine, Russia, with respect to the thing that not every classical tool works for such languages. In principle, so yeah, the answer is very simple. In principle, we as a company can work with any languages, but we have models for three: Russian, Ukrainian, and English, and other languages are to be trained.
And I think the last area to concentrate on is I can see how within corporations and within specific institutions, you might act on this information either to protect your reputation or to educate your staff and so on. How would the tool be used? Because the other area where I think it could be fascinating for this tool to play a role is in helping to educate and inform journalists so they don't unconsciously imbibe propaganda narratives, amplify and repeat them. And that is a massive problem, I think, in Western media, where the imprecision of the language used can convey certain moods, impressions, etc., that benefits the occupier or the offensive power, and it's unfortunately done totally unconsciously. Whereas using a tool like this, having much better local knowledge, context, and something that can highlight the weaponized narratives might help journalists with the precision of their language. So, is this an area your tool is being used, or is this a future use case?
We have some work we conduct with journalists. It is more of a two sides. For example, one of them is more of an investigative nature. For example, we had an ask to help map all the mentions of cluster bombs usage, and to find the locations where it is stated that they were used on the front line. Right? Because at some point people were talking a lot about like cluster bombings, cluster bombs, blah, blah, blah. And nobody understood where they are supposedly used. And one of the way to do it is to analyze information space and to find at least where people claimed that they were used. So yeah, this is the investigative use case. Another one is more of a data journalism nature. With respect to like providing some additional context on like disinformation propaganda stuff, I believe that there is a use case, but it should be in the following way. Like it should provide a journalist or a reporter or an investigator like a more broad context to judge upon, right? Not to say that, and I think that it is a very important issue here. Like we can't say as a technology company that, for example, something is 100% disinformation. And if some technology company says it, they're probably like selling snake oil or whatever. We can say that like our model with such kind of precision, building on such kind of methodology, says that the verdict of it being a potential case of disinformation is such and such, right? And then it is up to an expert to decide, up to a journalist to decide, up to a communication strategist to decide. And this is how I think this is the way to work on and to build on, to be very very open about the due process, about the metrics, and about the context, right? We are AI judges on purely formal reasons mostly. Sometimes formal reasons are not enough to make a final judgment, and this is why we need experts. This is why we need journalists. But yeah, they are to be provided as much context as possible. And here, like modern tools, not only Mantis Analytics, there are others to conduct such kind of analysis are very useful.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating, Anton. We're going to put links, obviously, to your profile and to Mantis Analytics website if people are interested in, and if they can see potentially a use within their own organizations, then I strongly encourage them to get in touch. But this is absolutely brilliant. I'm deeply fascinated by this topic. It sounds like the work you and your colleagues are doing is incredibly important, and I'm grateful to you for being able to share these insights with us today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for having me, and thanks for a great conversation and what you do on behalf of Ukrainian cause. This is like brilliant and appreciated.
Thanks so much. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.